Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dissecting Dance, Kicking It with Rand podcast, the podcast that opens up discussions about topics in dance. The goal of this podcast is to allow dancers and non-dancers alike to think about dance from new perspectives, as well as leaving room for discussion. Enjoy the show! Hi, everyone. This is pre-show Ren here again. On the last episode, I had Gwen on to help educate about being a gender non-conforming dancer in the dance world. If you haven't watched part 1, I highly recommend checking it out. The second part is kind of self-explanatory. You'll immediately know what the topic is when we start. Anyways, on to part 2 of the episode. Okay, I'm done.
Okay, I'm gonna try and explain this concisely so that A, I don't get fuming, and B, this doesn't become like a different topic. But consent in the dance world is like almost non-existent, I feel like.
Yes.
Like, we are not, in most situations and with most instructors, ever given an opportunity to express our consent and what we're comfortable with. So, like, and that goes with costumes. Like, we're never, like, really upfront asked, like, are you comfortable wearing this?
Yeah.
And if we are asked, it's usually like everyone's comfortable with this, right? Okay, good, moving on.
Yeah, and that's not what consent is.
That's not what consent is. That's forced consent.
Yeah.
And that's like making it so general that like no one feels comfortable speaking about it. And outside of costumes, like just in general in dance, especially with partnering, I feel like, and this is my theater major also coming out, there's like these boundary practice that we do in theater before every rehearsal, before every scene. If you have a scene partner, you do a boundary practice with them. You let them know what you're comfortable with, where you're comfortable, like being touched, anything like that. And you can like let them know to change your mind at any point. I feel like we need to make that a standard in dance, because with more partnering heavy classes, there are like days, and everyone has days where they're like, I don't want to be touched at all. I don't want to do any sort of partnering. There are days when people are like, I'm open to anything. You can grab me anywhere and throw me around on the floor. Like, I don't care. And so I think it's so important, and it would be such a big step if the dance community would start asking consent before doing like anything related to partnering, contact, connection, movement, even just in class in general. Like, sometimes you don't want your teacher coming up to you and shoving your leg in the air.
Right.
Like,
And it also has to be the teacher's responsibility to...
Yes.
To, figure out another way to correct you without making physical contact.
And we both had an amazing teacher growing up, who had such a good sense about those things. She would come up to you and she could tell if you were having a bad day, and she would leave you alone.
Yes.
She would,
yes.
Yeah, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
I think I do, but...
I think you do, yeah. But no, she could sense, like, if we were doing something, like, if we were having ballet and we were doing something at the bar, like, and she was about to walk up to you and, like, correct your arm or something, and she would see, she could tell you were having a bad day, she would walk away.
Yes.
She would be like, I'm not going to touch you today. I'm not going to bother you today. I'm not going to yell at you today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
I wish every teacher was like that.
I wish every teacher... I mean, you need to have that kind of instinct.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that is so needed in, like, the teacher... Like, I feel like that is so needed. Or, like, if there's a day where it's, like, you're having such a bad day where correcting would be more of a detriment than a benefit. Like...
Yeah. You don't always want to, like... I mean, you might be having a sort of day where, like, you're really not comfortable telling the teacher up front in the beginning of class, like, hey, I'm not having a good day. Please don't, like, touch me or talk to me.
Yeah.
But, like, also, like, we understand, like, people are not mind readers. Like, there needs to be some sort of signal there.
Yeah.
But also, like, you should be able to detect the signs of, like, when someone is not okay with either, whether it be corrections or physical contact or any sort of thing like that. Like, you should be able to, as a teacher, pick up the signs.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, well, something that happened that kind of blew my mind is that there was one class that I took with this one teacher, and she pretty much said, everybody close your eyes. Raise your hand if you are okay being touched. And that was just like, that is such a good start. And she would ask every single time, raise your hand if you're okay with being touched. Or I think it was raise your hand if you're not okay with it. And nobody else would know because everyone's eyes were closed.
True.
Like, or she'd say, like, cover your eyes or whatever. But it was just really nice to get that, like, validation.
Yeah.
And then I'm okay with this. I'm okay with the topic of consent because it's super important to talk about.
Yeah.
And it goes into, like, the gender identity.
Yeah.
It does get into that because yeah.
Good.
Yeah. But another thing with consent too is, like, social media. That is something that makes me so mad, is when I see myself on social media and people don't ask me first. And I mean that in, like, a dance, I mean in general and in dance. Like, sometimes when there have been, luckily this hasn't happened often because I feel like I have made my stance very clear, but do not record me. If you try to record me during class, if you try to record an entire class and I even have a chance of being in the video, then I'm moving. I'm standing off to the side, I'm moving. And that has ticked people off. And I've had an aggravating conversation with somebody who was mad that I wasn't participating in something because I caught someone trying to sneak a video. It was like a teacher's aid. So it was, like, pertaining whatever. And I feel like that's a whole other thing, is do you consent to being recorded or your picture being posted on social media?
Yeah. And I feel like even the gap between, like, recording something and posting something, like, I have had a lot of teachers who have been like, okay, this is going to be recorded for my purposes, for educational purposes. It's not going anywhere online. And I'm okay with being recorded in that sense. I'm also, most of the time, okay with being posted, but I would prefer to see the videos first.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, it's sort of like, and I think recently has been most of the situations I've been in where I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was going to be posted online. Okay, I guess that's a thing then. Yeah. Because, like, a lot of the times we're not told ahead of time if something like that is being posted. And, like, it's a totally different thing, like, if you, like, are, like, say if you're, like, posting a picture of something or a video of someone, and, like, if they tell you, like, hey, sorry, but, like, I'm not comfortable with this, can you take it down? Like, I've had experiences with this, like, in the past where I've posted, like, a picture or a video, and someone's contacted me and been like, hey, I'm, like, super sorry, but I'm actually not comfortable with this. I immediately, like, you don't have to give me a reason. You don't have to, like, state your case. I will take it down. I don't care what, all you have to tell me is that you don't want to be posted. I'm like, sorry, I should have asked before. I'll take it down. Yeah. And then I try and do a better job of asking people before I post anything that has anyone else in it. Yeah. I mean, it should be as simple as that. Yeah. Like, it's not a big deal, too. Because it's like, I know that I should have asked beforehand. But that's something that now the next time that I want to post something, I'm like, oh, wait, this also has this other person in it, or these other people in it. I should ask them to make sure that they're okay with this being posted. Right, because the internet is forever. Because the internet is forever. I've had experiences, and this is like outside of dance. This is more of a general thing, where one of my friends posted, like, this picture on social media, and one of my other friends is like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable, like, I don't want that of me on the internet, because the internet is forever, which I think is something that people don't think about when you're making posts, when you're just making posts like that. Yeah. But basically she was like, yeah, I don't want that. Like I don't like it, like, and once they say I don't like it, I feel like that's a sign that maybe that shouldn't be on the internet. Yeah.
But basically, like, my friend was pretty much, oh no, you look great. You, like, it's fine, it's funny. And to me, that's like, absolutely not. Like, this is somebody else in a picture.
Yeah.
Keep it to yourself. The internet is forever. And that's just, I was recording this, so we had to do this video, like this, like, you know about the video.
Yeah.
the one that I had to make. If I had a choice, like, if I had even like a fighting chance, it wouldn't be on the internet.
That's on the internet?
It's on Instagram.
Oh my god.
Yeah. With the skeleton too. The skeleton overlay. Yeah, it's on Instagram, and I made a plan to ask my professor to take it down.
Oh wait, yeah, it is on the internet. I saw it.
Yeah. The skeleton overlay was my favorite part.
That made it better.
Yeah. I mean, and then I ended up making like my own little video because, oh my god, I hated doing that video. And I don't think it should have been posted. But it was
I also love how, as a dancer in that piece, I was also not informed that would be posted.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm gonna ask to take it down. Because I personally, it also caused some like weird family stuff to happen because I was never upfront with my like parents about my identity.
Ooh.
And they follow the page.
Oh god. See, okay, this is where the line between consent meets the line with gender identity and sexual orientation and everything.
Yes.
Is that it's not only a matter of comfortability, it's a matter of safety.
It's a
sometimes.
safety thing.
Like, I had a friend who, in high school, we were doing a concert, and the instructor, who was a very supportive person, put this friend's name in as their chosen name. And fortunately, unfortunately, their parents, like, weren't really interested or involved. But fortunately for that moment, the parents weren't that involved because they didn't come to the show.
Yeah.
But my friend, like, sort of had a moment of, oh my god, this is not good. Like, I should have told the instructor to put my dead name in there instead.
Yeah. That's why I, like, messaged y'all, because you're one of my dad. That's why I, like, messaged you guys and was like, even though, like, it isn't an issue for you guys, it's just good practice to ask what name you want in the program.
Yeah.
So that way, if parents do come to the show, it's like you can protect yourself from that.
Yeah.
But in that moment, and my parents weren't supportive, they're uninvolved. And I don't want them to be involved because that's a whole other can of worms I don't want to open at the moment. But basically, it was like, I'm thinking. It was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary, and
sort of like your heart just sort of drops for a moment, and you're like, oh, like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
Because that's also something that, like, if it happened and, like, that was online and, like, somebody saw that who you hadn't discussed this openly with, like, sure, maybe at some point you'd be ready to have that conversation, but that's also something that you need to prepare yourself for.
Yes.
Of being like, hey, so this is the thing that's going on, and you want to do it on your own terms, too. You don't want them to, like, see something else first and then be like, wait a second, are you gay?
Right. I mean, when it comes to, like, gender identity, I mean, you can't force somebody to come out just because whatever. Like, there's no reason to force somebody to come out. Like, there's... Because you need a chance to, gather your thoughts and get everything together. So, that was like... Yeah, that was... Nothing really came out of it. I ghosted. I ignored the messages.
Fair enough.
I mean, my parents were going on vacation, and I was like, we
don't need to do this.
We don't need to do this. And it was never brought up again. Thank goodness. Because I do know my parents are, like, supportive of my friends, but it's not something I want to open with, like...
Yeah.
Because I know they're going to, like, tell everyone, and I don't want that. Which is... But...
Yeah.
Getting... That was, like, a little personal note. But... Yeah. That's, like, a whole thing with, like... That's also a thing that I think people need to be sensitive to. And that's also where consent is, is it okay? Like, what do you feel comfortable wearing this costume? Or run it one time, how do you feel? Social media, what name would you like to be posted on social media? Because I was going pretty subtle with only the they them pronouns for a while. And then once I ended up with my chosen name, that kind of caused some things. But I was getting away with the they because it's gender neutral.
Yeah.
But when the name change happens, it just
it's more like an okay.
Yeah. So I think that that's another reason why consent is so important is when you're talking about gender or the LGBT community,
LGBTQIA+.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they just keep growing, more letters. But
I just like to throw all of them in there just, for funsies.
For funsies,
For funsies.
Like, you can be supportive, but you have to understand that being in the LGBT community is not a choice. And it's a marginalized community. And that's something that people think, oh yeah, we're so supportive, like, we're so understanding, like, things are getting so much better. But the world is, like, LGBT, like, the community is still very unsupported.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
and that's something that that's something that not that I forget or that I don't acknowledge, but like sometimes it can feel sort of like a world away because the majority of my friends are all queer in some way or another. I have very few friends who are not a member of the queer community, and so it's like hard for me to believe sometimes the statistics of like, oh, it's only like this percentage of people who are actually queer, and I'm like, that doesn't seem right, because like most of the people in my life are queer or are allies or are very supportive, and I'm like, this very small group of people, not very small, but like this relatively small group of people who are actually like actively against like the LGBT community are like, I don't know, they're so loud.
They're so loud. They're so loud. And I think that there's more. My joke is that the biggest like transphobics and the homophobe blah 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 blah. I think that they have a secret that they're hiding. I think it's projection.
Oh my god.
But we won't open that can of worms right now. We're talking about dance.
All right.
Yeah. But no, consent and gender do play hand in hand. And I eventually was going to talk about consent, like, at some point. So, yeah, that's definitely, yeah. I'm trying to think if I have any other, like, stories. Do you have any stories? Do you have any, like, experiences or stories where it's like you felt like you're, besides the lady story? We both have, yeah.
Well, the lady's story was the most recent example. I don't know. I've heard a lot of stories from other people, like, both related to gender and not, that are like, oh my god. But I don't know. I feel like I need to sprinkle some good ones in there of like all the times that my trans friends have told me, like, I went to the store the other day, and like a person who I saw there like gendered me correctly and didn't even know who I was. Yeah. And I was like, oh my god, that's so fun. Oh, I love it.
We love it. We're in a great community right now with like supportive people and good representation. Yeah. I feel like now ever since like the huge like I've been very big on like correcting people more, and I find that it's really helping for the greater, like, especially our department. I feel like it's gotten a lot better because we're calling people out now. Yeah. For all this that's happening, and ultimately it's going to make the world a better place. I still think with ladies, when you're addressing a large group of people and you're used to addressing people as the, like, in a certain way, I think that's going to be really difficult. And there was actually one time where this professor said dancers, and I was like mind blown, crazy. But then it went back to ladies.
Oh, lovely.
like how?
Or they like single you out. They're like, ladies and such. I'm like, okay,
That
doesn't make me feel better. That makes me feel more alienated than you just calling me ladies. Like,
right, like dancers.
That's like you're saying I'm not a person in this class. I'm like, okay,
I'll just be a cat.
Just dance. We're all dancers. Why can't
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your gender is. We're all dancers. Why can't you just say dancers?
Why can't you say dancers or everyone?
Oh yeah, but the thing that you mentioned about like all of this is sort of progressing, like department and everything in particular, is something that I was going to bring up with you anyway, is that like the stuff that you have already done is already helping me.
Aww.
And like I all because I noticed that stuff, because in our department in particular, there isn't a very big pool of genderqueer.
There's like it's literally
people.
just us.
It's pretty much the two of us.
Yeah.
And so like I still have my contributing to do, but also I know people who are applying here to be incoming freshmen who will also need that sort of support. And I feel like, and I've already noticed, like, from what you've told me about individual instructors and people having gotten better throughout the years, and then what I've noticed with my interactions with those people, I'm like, this is already making a difference.
Yeah.
And it's already making me feel more comfortable being in this situation than I was before. And so if I can continue that and make it more comfortable for the next incoming group of people, like, that's ultimately, that's how progress happens.
That's how progress happens.
That's how progress happens.
And progress happens by not stopping.
Yeah.
Progress happens just by, and I'm so glad that you're continuing it. Because, when I was calling people out and when I was talking to people about my situation, I think it also helped. I didn't report immediately. I did eventually have to go to somebody to get help, but I think not reporting immediately and just giving people time as well was, it sucks that we have to give people time because you want to be affirmed right away. But giving people time to, correct. And you can usually tell when people have good intention.
When people are trying.
Yeah. And I think that was why I opted not to. For those people, that's why I opted to not, go to a higher up, because I could tell that they were trying the best that they possibly could. The way that our school works, like, you can get a Title IX violation if you misgender somebody. Just so you know.
Oh, I was not aware of that.
Oh yeah, like, you could get someone in trouble if they are, like, consistently if there's, like, an intention, if there's an intention, purpose, and they're misgendering you can, you can do something about it, just so you know. But yeah, I think that what I was thinking about too as I was correcting people is, like, people like you, like, because we know each other and I knew that you were applying to the school. I was like, people like you, you're gonna come in, and I want the people like you who are coming in to feel validated by, like.
And that's how I'm feeling right now with my friends who are currently applying, and who I know would probably have an even more difficult time than I will.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think, us willing to, like, be advocates is really helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing things improve. Like, I still have some work to do with some of my professors.
Yeah.
But we're definitely, I'm noticing a difference too, especially because you've been telling me all the stories about, how people are, like, asking you about your pronouns, and just making sure that they're doing it right. That's a huge thing.
And I'm very glad, and, like, that's how I knew that you had already done something, was because I was like, this, like, I was assuming already by just coming into college that it would be a more open and accepting community in general.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this is, like, better than I was expecting. And there's obviously still work to be done. But, that it was sort of better than what I was anticipating, which made me feel relieved, because I was like, oh, I have a place here.
But yeah, that feeling like you belong. And I think it helped. So although the pool of the pool of like
The puddle.
No, it's literally a puddle. It's just us.
It's a puddle.
Yeah. I mean, out of all the other people who are not in us, everyone else is pretty accepting as well.
Yeah.
So
it's overall a very accepting community in general.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that was also like very helpful. But if they weren't, I would have gone to the higher ups.
Yeah.
Because our school is very liberal.
And
we could get them in trouble.
Yeah. And staying on this, but also sort of going back a little bit to consent again, when we talk about like how all the groups that are going through are like making like these efforts to make progress, one of the things that my freshman group has done, particularly with one specific group, has been to sort of bring these things up, especially with like particularly like interdisciplinary art forms and how we are dealing with situations in those. And especially one of the biggest things that came up was consent, and how in a lot of different art fields it's really not existent, and how even when it is there, it's not, even when it's there, even when it's properly handled, it's still uncomfortable, and there's not always the most open or best job done of remedying those situations. Yeah. And so as a concern that this particular group of other students, incoming students, and I had we discussed this with a professor who has an ability to change said things.
She has a lot of power.
A lot of power over these sort of things in particular. And so us sort of being able to have, we did sort of like take an entire class one day to just rant and just have like, it was sort of like a group therapy session. Period. It was very, very nice. And it was very affirming to hear that not only other dancers felt the exact same way, but other members of other art forms felt this exact same way about, yeah, this is an issue that we've all noticed and we've all had to deal with, and that we can do something about and we should do something about. And so just seeing that and being there for that experience was another thing that made me realize, like, okay, so if we're bringing this up now, then maybe in the next 4 years, like maybe by then, like something will have changed. Yes. And that's always the hope.
That's always the hope. And I think that, I mean, you guys are already talking about it now. I think there will be a change. This professor that you're speaking of, who I know very well.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. She was the first person in the department that I came out to. Actually, one of the first people ever that I told. And from the get-go, always been really supportive. Fantastic human being of a person. And most importantly, she does ask for feedback. Like, I remember when I was sitting in her class one day, like this semester, I had her this semester, she wanted our feedback on, the experiences of choreographing, like how she was doing, like any issues that came up. So I think that's also a very important idea too, is just being open for feedback. But yeah, I definitely think that you found the right person to talk to about about that kind of stuff, because she is trying to make change.
Yeah, and we I think that's one of the reasons that we as a group felt comfortable bringing this up, because one person started the conversation, a couple more people funneled in. It was kind of, we were like holding back at first, you could tell, and then eventually we just sort of started to break through and just sort of be actually really truthful about what we were feeling, and like because we were talking about things within departments at the school. And I think having formerly seen this professor's like willingness to talk about these things did actually help us, because we know that this professor is already actively making changes that are going to benefit us. And so I think seeing that beforehand was helpful for all of us sort of being like, okay, take a deep breath out and just like let it go, just put it out there in the open, all the things that we had been thinking and had never really discussed in front of a figure of authority.
Yes, let the feelings fly. Yeah, and we're very lucky to be in that kind of environment. honestly don't know how we would have done if we weren't in that environment. I probably wouldn't even be in that school
Yeah.
if it didn't come from like a supportive place.
Mm-hmm.
And really, here's all that we really want, and just to kind of like, we are hitting the end here.
Yeah.
All that we really want is to just be affirmed correctly and be we just want our identity to be respected.
We want to be treated like just another human being.
Right. Like, we don't want, we're not asking to stand out or to be, alienated.
It's the last thing that we want, actually.
Yeah. I mean, we just want to, me being someone who doesn't like being the center of attention, all that I really want is, use the right pronouns, just be respectful.
I do have another really quick and good experience story.
Yes.
Of I had my first like multi-stall gender neutral bathroom experience on campus. It was like, I was so happy because I like had only ever seen single stall gender neutral restrooms, and most of the time they're adopted out of like staff bathrooms or anything like that. So they're always separated from the rest of the bathrooms. They're always hard to find. They're always very isolating. You can always see when someone is going in and out of one of those. And I found my first multi-stall gender neutral bathroom. I walked in, I went, whoa! And I was like, I just had a huge smile on my face. I was so happy. I was like, this feels so like, it was so like euphoric. It was happy because I was like, I no longer feel in this moment like, oh, here's like a separate little place that you can go. Yeah. It was sort of like, oh, like there's a community around this. It didn't feel as isolating.
It did, like, it was just, everyone's going to the bathroom.
Yeah, we're just people peeing.
I still face, like, it depends on, like, the specific restroom. But there are some restrooms where it's, like, it's formatted still in, like, a stall-like fashion. And I still feel iffy going to those specific ones because you don't know if a guy's gonna come into it. Like, that's not something I feel comfortable with. But the ones where it's, like, there's, like, a clear wall and it's, like, a room instead of... It's, like, you walk in and there's just a bunch of rooms instead of a bunch of stalls. We stand. Those are the ones that's just me, though.
Yeah. To be fair, I did walk into this bathroom. It was, like, the middle of the night, so there was no one else in there.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, yeah. No, I love the multi-gender.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the thing with, like, all gender restrooms is that if it's a single stall one, there's, like, a 90% chance that someone who is gender binary is just using it to either skip a line or just because they want to, or just because they're more comfortable in there, which is fine. Yeah. But also, like, kind of sucks when you want to use the bathroom. Yes. But with multi-stall ones, like, I feel like, I don't know, I just sort of, because of seeing that and having that experience for the first time, just sort of gave me this, like, hope. Yeah. Of, like, okay, the people who I would run into in here are, like, part of a community that I'm a part of. And that made me feel happy. Yay!
There's this, like, one specific bathroom that's my favorite bathroom on campus. And when I was, like, going through some nasty things, that bathroom was my safe haven. Which is so funny. I mean, it wasn't like a multi-room bathroom or anything. It was like a single one. But I would just sit in there for like an hour and just debrief. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that specific class was very, very stressful. But anyways, that was my safe haven, was the all-gender restroom. We do have to sign off, but is there anything else that we missed that you would like to tack on?
I guess the only thing would be just about my own personal experience about how I am sometimes more female leaning, sometimes more non-binary leaning. That it does sometimes make me feel like I don't deserve to be seen as like part of the community. Because, like, if I'm having a very much more, like, I feel, like, almost entirely, like, fully, like, I'm a woman. Like, this is who I am. I'm affirmed in my gender and such. And then I like feel like, oh, I'm not allowed to say that I'm non-binary, or I'm not allowed to like wear this thing or feel this way or anything like that. And then there's other days when it's the opposite, and I'm like, I feel completely non-binary today.
Yeah.
And why is everyone referring to me as a woman and like saying that I should like wear a dress to this thing? Like, yeah.
Right.
So just to tack it on, it's hard, but we're making progress.
Yeah, that's basically the summary of this entire...
This is the summary, is that it's hard to deal with having your identity for yourself, being open to other people, and dealing with consent and such in the field. But we are making progress. We are the ones making progress.
Yes.
And we're going to keep making progress.
We're not going to stop.
Yeah.
No, when I graduate, I'm not gonna stop.
Good.
I'll be texting you,
Good.
like, so what's happening? Who do I need to email today? But yeah, so audience, I hope you found this conversation beneficial.
Hopefully it was eye-opening.
Yes, I hope that it broadened your horizons.
And if your horizons were already broadened, I hope it made you laugh or cry or, you know.
Well, any emotion. I hope that I hope that you were a human.
Yes.
Listening to this episode.
We're all just humans.
We're all just humans.
Just humans peeing.
That is so real. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of Dissecting Dance, Kicking It with Ren podcast. If you can hear the wonderful background music, those are water bottles. This is your sign that you should relax and drink some water. Anyways, a new episode will be uploaded every other Thursday. Thank you for watching.